Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm here with Jay and John. What's up, gentlemen?
Hi. Well,
how's it going?
It's cold where I'm at. Real cold. Real cold. So that was upsetting. Well, I was just like, I was indoors and I went outside to take care of our chickens, and it just like hit me like all the way down to my bones. And I was just like, oh my God, it's like, I'm like, what is the temperature out right? It's like 5. So it's really
72 in Phoenix.
Don't worry, John. By the time you get up here, it's
72.
supposed to be 50. So this
there
week,
you go.
Yeah,
I'm bringing the
supposed
heat.
To be all right. Yeah.
What's the temperature that like there, John, in the summer?
40 degrees higher.
Yeah,
it is now. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I've seen pictures of melting trash cans and people baking cookies on their dashboards. So
Oh yeah.
I think I'll take 5 degrees over that personally. But.
Yeah, I always tell people that I would rather be cold than warm. Well, why? Because I could just put on more clothes and I'll be fine. But when it's too hot, there's only so much I can do about that before.
Yeah, you just go inside. I mean, you just don't leave the house.
Yeah.
Look how pasty white I am. I live in the desert
Right.
and I just never leave home.
Right. Your summer is just like our winter. Just don't leave the house. Yeah.
And there you go. Well, Virginia
Amazon,
is
everything.
Pleasant in between. It is currently in the 30s here, which is about as cold as it gets during the winter.
Yeah.
We just got through our spring of deception when it was like 60 something. And then it gets cold again, and then it gets warm again, and then we get flower and trees. So
interesting.
It's always nice down there. Yeah. You guys are in a good area.
It's not quite like San Diego nice, but
San Diego's nice.
What is?
Right,
San
obviously.
Diego?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to say, going to San Diego when I went to SoCal Open last year, I was like, this place is literally perfect. Like, the food is amazing, the temperature is perfect all the time.
Yeah.
There's a beach. Like, why doesn't everybody live here? Anyway, probably
good question.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Anyway, today we are going to talk about the Canto Bight Cup, which is in up in your neck of the woods there, Jay. Is it actually in Syracuse?
So it's like 30 minutes outside of Syracuse, but yeah, I mean, as far as we're concerned, yes. Like
it's in that area.
It's Syracuse-ish.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing is, real quick, so whenever anybody goes to that area, they're like, well, how far away from the Syracuse airport is that? I'm like, 30 minutes. They're like, in traffic. I'm like, 30 minutes. All right, without traffic, it's 30 minutes, man. Like that's how long it takes to get there. There's no traffic. Just it's just that far away.
Yep.
People from bigger cities don't really, I think, appreciate that until they get somewhere like here, you know.
Yeah, the concept of a place without traffic is like, yeah.
COVID has cut our traffic like in half. Like, I mean, I don't have to leave the house too often, but I do occasionally drive out during what would be rush hour times. And I very rarely is it ever bumper to bumper. Yeah, a lot less people on the road, a lot fewer people on the road.
Well, yeah, that'll do it.
Our traffic's still bad.
Yeah.
It's DC.
Yeah.
Dude, real quick, I have one more story, and I think most people appreciate this. So I was driving back from Florida to New York with my brother, and we were like, hey, we're gonna drive straight through. Like, we're gonna make it. I think we left at like 6 a.m. We were looking and we're like, dude, we're gonna make it by 11 p.m. Like, no problem, right? Straight through. We ran in for no reason whatsoever it was 4 hours and dead stop traffic. And like, we're like, oh, what is going on? Like in DC, and like, we already passed that like thing that goes around. So if you're coming up 95, there's what, 4 something that goes around that you can kind of
495.
495. Yeah. And we kind of passed that, and we're just stuck, just dead traffic. We finally get up and it just clears up. It was nothing. It was just somebody decided to turn right across the lane or something, and everyone hit their brakes, and that's what it was for 4 hours. Didn't get home till 2 o'clock in the morning. So that was,
Yeah.
yeah, that's been
That
my
sounds about right.
experience with DC traffic.
Jeez.
Yeah, we just had a snowstorm maybe like a month ago, where people were stuck on the highway on 95 for like literally a day or two.
Oh,
There was like 4 or 5 tractor trailers just jackknifed basically, and then it keeps snowing and everybody gets snowed in, and then they can't clear the snow because there's all these cars in the way. Yeah, people were stuck in their cars for like 24 plus hours.
Holy crap.
oh my gosh.
I can't imagine being on like a family trip in the minivan with the kids. It's like, all right, we got a little traffic, kiddos, and 24 hours later.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like those SpongeBob like transitions where they're just old and like skeleton. 24 hours later.
Yeah. Well, it's not just like the boredom. It's, I mean, you got to eat something, like you got to go to the bathroom somewhere. Like, I can't imagine. Anyway.
Anyhow.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And it's cold outside because it's snowing. So it's not like you can just go hang out on the highway. Not that that would be a safe
Right.
thing to do anyway, but
Not 5 degrees cold, but cold.
yeah. And look, 25 degrees here feels like 5 degrees when you're used to
it's all
25
relative,
degrees.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if
Yeah.
you've ever been in Florida, when like in Orlando, when it gets like 35 degrees, you're like, we're all gonna die. And
Yeah.
it's like, even though you're like up here, I could definitely go out in shorts in 35-degree weather and be like, yeah, this is fine. But when it happens in Florida, it's like, no, we're all dead. This is it. This is how we die.
Yeah. I saw a great clip from like a San Diego news channel when it was like 50 degrees, and they do like a live shot to somebody that's out in the field, and they're wearing like one of those big puffy parkas and like stocking cap and like a scarf, and it's 50 degrees, and they're talking about how cold it is. It's like,
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's funny.
all right, enough about the weather.
Sorry.
No, that was good. So on today's show, besides talking about the weather, we're going to talk about Canto Bight because that's this weekend. We're also going to talk about how to get out of a rut, how to improve if you're in a rut. I'm sure this is a topic that we've hit before, but we're going to hit it again because I've forgotten everything we said about it, and so have most of our listeners probably. So, yeah. But before that, we got any housekeeping, Jay?
Yeah, I have a couple things. So number one, I've kind of announced this in other places, but we'll make the announcement here too. Mr. Bushman, who's joining us today, is now our lead developer for Stormtide. So he's joining the Stormtide team, which is me, and he's coming on over and gonna work on the game development and the story and stuff, and help move Stormtide along. So he's already gotten himself in a little bit of trouble with the jackals on the Discord channel asking him questions.
It's fine.
It's
fine.
just kidding. I thought that was funny interaction, but so I'm really happy to have John on board working on Stormtide. So that's exciting for me and for us, and I think it should be exciting for all of you because the stuff John and I have been talking about is really cool, and you're going to see some of that here starting in box 7, which is season 2, box 1. Not to be confusing everybody, but basically, if you've been with us from the beginning, this is box 7. But you can also start, which it's box 1 for you. So that's how it's working. So if you're a new player and you've heard us talking about Stormtide, and you're like, oh gee, I'd like to get into that. Now's your chance. You could get in season 2, box 1 here, where you still got time to get in. And you can start now. I'm really excited about this box. There's going to be a ton of minis in this first box. We're doing operatives and commanders with skill trees now. So you can pick an operative and pick a direction you want to take your operative in to make them uniquely you. which, I think is kind of cool. And a lot of what we're hearing is how people like to have, as much as they like, the lore and what Star Wars is and what Legion is, being able to kind of have your own narrative and create your own pathway in your games at home. I think a lot of people like that as well. And, we've seen like the Phyrexian armies from like Magic the Gathering. Somebody had a Phyrexian army, like, with the queen being the commander. And, I think there's a lot of cool things. I think I saw a Stormtrooper with a lightsaber, like a Wookiee with a lightsaber. Like there's been a ton of really neat commanders people have come up with. And we wanted to really promote that. And you should absolutely, if it's okay with your opponent, whatever you want to use in this game is open, and you just use the rule set, and we really like that. And so in this box, in box 1 of Stormtide, way back in the beginning, we just offered 2 commanders, and you had to pick. They were assigned to a ship, and you had to pick one or the other, and that was your only choice. I'm officially going to announce that we've decided we're putting 6 miniatures in this first box of season 2. And so you and your opponent will each choose one for a commander and one for an operative, but you'll have 6 different miniatures to choose from between the 2 of you. So you'll technically have 2 miniatures left over after choosing what makes sense for your army. And so I'm really excited about that. And so, giving players choice between their minis, between what they want to do with their armies, and then also growing their characters, commanders through their skill tree, and then the operatives now through their skill tree. There's just a lot of opportunity to have unique experiences that are only for you and your opponent, right? And you may not, there's a solid chance no one's going to replicate those same experiences, which I really like. And then the other big thing that's happening is, people in all our missions in Stormtide, you scan a QR code and you go report what happened in your mission. Well, everybody's been asking us, well, okay, what does that mean? Like, what's going on with that? Well, in box 7/season 2 here, we're about to find out. So all the ramifications of those actions are actually going to be showing up in this box. So that's really exciting, I think, for all the players who've been playing with us, and that's going to be a very organic and living thing. So as more stuff happens, we're finally going to be we came up with a structure to allow that to happen live. So like before a mission, you're going to have to check something to see what's going on with the numbers before you can play that mission. So you know what's going to happen in that mission. And I'm trying to be vague on purpose because I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, I'm really excited about that. You can come check us out at Adepticon next month. We'll have boxes with us. We're going to actually be running demos of the game at our booth at Adepticon, so you can come check that out. Yeah, so that's it. Stormtide, check it out. Go to the website, fifthtrooper.com, click on Stormtide, and you can learn more about it and get involved and get into this wonderful community. All of our supporters and people who have been getting into this, like they've got background stories to their armies. They've got like their own narratives that they're writing off of our narrative. They're really engaged and really helpful with the rest of the community. So like, if you want to hear it from someone else who's not us, you could go to the Discord and the Legion Discord, and there's a Stormtide section. Just ask people in there what Stormtide is and what they think of it, and let them answer it for you, because they'll tell you, and so don't take my word for it. Go ask some other people, but join us. It's been a blast, and I'm looking forward to some of the insane stuff we have on the docket here. So, and Kyle died. The end.
Awesome. Well, that's very exciting. Congrats, Mr. Bushman. Bushman.
Thanks. I'm very excited. Lots of possibilities.
Yep. Show.
Patreon?
Yeah, sure. If you want to support us on, any of our podcasts or our blog, we pay our blog writers, we pay our staff, and in order to do that, Patreon supporters, that's what makes all this possible. And so if you want to get in on Patreon, there's another podcast that we actually have been recording there called After Dark that we've got to get another episode out here soon. And then also we try to do quarterly awards. We've got a 1-year award at a certain mark. And so you can get on there and just support the Fifth Trooper and everything we do and all the content that we develop for you.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's start with Canto Bight Cup in the vicinity of Syracuse.
Mhm.
You guys are both going, right?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So, let's start with the numbers. They wanted 64. They ended up with 50, which I mean, I think not only is good for a regular tournament, but for a tournament in upstate New York in the middle of February, I think that's a really good turnout. So I'm excited about the numbers. I'm excited about it being local and that I'm not running it. Those are all exciting things to me so that I can go play and enjoy it. And, I've been, they put the tabletop TO registration up. And so I've been seeing all the names like of people that we know that have been registering, and I'm like messaging go, oh my God, I didn't know you were coming up. This is going to be amazing. Like, so that's been really exciting to see, since I wasn't able to make it out to LVO this year, seeing some of the same names we would see at LVO or something is very cool. And, Bushman's coming up, which is great. It'll be nice to see him in person. Cause I mean, basically since COVID started, I haven't seen John in person. So it'll be nice to see him and everybody else in person. So that's all the, early stuff. I think the interesting thing about this for people who don't know, it's a 2-day tournament and they're doing 3 rounds each day, which I like, right?
Perfect.
Like we've talked about this before.
That's the sweet spot.
Yeah, 3 rounds a
For sure.
day is the perfect amount of Legion because then you can go do, like I was looking at the schedule going, oh my God, we could go to dinner after this. Like, and
Yeah.
like, I still might be able to make it home by 9:30. Like that's that in my head is crazy. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm really excited about that. Yeah, we'll see. I don't, we were talking about the numbers in our chat and how that's going to work as far as like what the top, they're not doing a top cut. It's just 6 rounds. And so like what that 5th and 6th round would look like numerically, right? And I think it's close that you could play all 6 and have one undefeated, I think.
It depends on things.
Yeah.
I think you definitely would have just 1 undefeated after 6, but I think there's a chance
You
that
could have 0.
Right. You could have an undefeated after 5.
Yes.
Right.
And you could have only 1 undefeated after 5, potentially.
Yes.
Yeah. So that'll be, and that's up to the TOs. I don't know what their plan is for that, but I mean, if it were me and at the end of 5, we had 1 undefeated, I'd be like, all right, this next round's a free round, everybody, because we've got it,
Yep.
Yeah.
Or give them the bye, right? And then let everybody else duke it out for 2nd,
Right.
3rd, and 4th or whatever,
That'd be
but-
super awkward to like have that person
Oh,
Yeah.
play
could you,
another game,
could you
and then,
imagine?
like lose, and then how do you how do you figure out who won?
Dude.
I mean, yeah. I feel like we've had tournaments where that's happened, but I mean, it's tough because like you either plan for 6 games or you plan for 5. Like cutting it down to 5 when you've told people like, hey, you're gonna play 3 games today, and now you're only gonna play 2 because we happen to have 1 undefeated left after the 2nd game. Like you kind of feel like as a TO that you're robbing people of that
Yeah.
3rd game
Yeah.
or 6th game. So I get it, but at the same time, like Kyle says, if then that pair down of the undefeated to someone who's not undefeated loses, then it's awkward.
Where do you think they pair down? You think it would be like if they, let's
It
say they
pairs
had
down from the top.
so they
Well,
go
and
to-
you have to,
Right.
right? Because the undefeated has to play against someone who's been defeated. So
No, but I mean, like, is it like the who's in 2nd place, or is it who's in like 6th place or 8th
so
place? Like,
regs, and if they're just using tabletop TO, it's random.
yeah,
It takes a random person that's X and 1 and pairs it against the undefeated.
well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
yeah.
I like your idea, Jay, where you're basically just be like, all right, we're gonna do a sixth round, but this one's free. It doesn't count. Basically, here's our winner. It's this guy who's undefeated after 5, and this round is for fun. So go nuts.
Yeah.
Because then you still get that sixth round in, and then you don't have to deal with that potentially awkward, like, well, the 5-0 guy lost the completely unnecessary sixth round game, and now we have to figure out how to
Right.
sort a bunch of X and
Right.
ones amongst each other to see
Man.
who won.
And whoever that one person would be, I mean, listen, you got to win, but like stuff happens, bad dice happen. But imagine you're 5-0 and you get paired down to somebody who's got a loss, and then you like end up losing, and you had it. You were
I
the
mean,
winner.
yeah, it could just be like a counter pick. There's a lot of
Right.
rock, paper, scissors now in Legion.
Yeah.
Like he could just get the bad counter in that last game.
Man. Oh well.
I have a dilemma with that though, because then if we do a fun round, do I count that on Elo?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Hmm. I think no. But
If
then you have
if
to,
they like use
manually
those
remove it.
words and say fun, like I feel like I can't count it as competitive.
Yeah. Agreed.
Because just the mindsets people are going to be.
And
in.
I guess, I think in that, and now that I'm thinking it out, right? If you do the fun round, you're really just doing it for one person, because I think you're also robbing anyone else of like potentially moving up the ladder to second or third. Like somebody could have been like, well, if I win this last match in 6, I could be second place, right? But I'm third or fourth right now. Or something like that based on SOS, it could work out that way. So I think you probably got to do the many over the one, I guess, in that scenario.
Or you do the other thing you suggested, and you just give that whoever that player is like a bye or something.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Because they're already automatically first, right? So
Right.
hey, you
Yeah.
get the bye for round 6, and
But if you have an even number of people, then you're creating a second buy, or you're
Yeah.
creating 2 buys where there were none.
Then you just, you either probably have a drop by that point, or if you don't, then
You could
just
still be
give the
landing
second
on an
bye
even number of people.
to whoever's
And-
yeah,
already in
I,
last place or whatever.
I do not envy the TOs for that,
No.
for
Yeah.
that potential situation.
Nope.
I guess that's why most 2-day formats have cuts, right?
Yeah.
It's because you never have to deal with that, because you're
Yeah.
always cutting to a fixed number of players.
Yeah.
And then those players play elimination, and then
Yeah,
it's never a thing that you have to deal with.
And we interviewed them on the 5th Trooper and seen some of their other stuff. I think they, when that decision was made, they were just living in like a utopian world where it was like, hey, we're going to have 64 players, like 6 rounds is going to get us where we need to be. And it sounded great. And then, stuff happens, right? Like you get dropped, you only get 50 players, and then who knows how many other are going to drop by the time we get actually to Saturday, and then again on Sunday, right? Like
I'm
If you-
convinced it's impossible to have 64 people tournament and have 64 people show up.
Yeah,
I think it
possible.
is.
Yeah.
Like LVO sold out within half a day, I'm pretty sure, months ago. And that was at 128 people and 96 showed.
Yeah.
Like
I think-
it's the nature of it. Like people don't have to, like, it's not 100% commitment that people
Yeah.
come.
And for those of you that are new to this, it's not a COVID issue. So, for us, we did the Northeast Open way before COVID. And I think we ended up selling like 58 or 59 tickets, but we only ended up having like 50 people
Yeah.
or 51. It was some weird number. It just happens, right? Like I think people have good intentions. You're like, oh, I'm going to save my spot. Like I got to get a ticket. And then, family stuff happen. Any like work, anything could happen, right? That knocks you out of that. And you just don't end up making it.
And there's a reason airlines oversell their flights, right?
Yeah. And like even with Legion, I know we try and do wait lists and that, but it's never enough to backfill. Like I think there was something like, and I don't know the numbers, so I'm kind of just guessing, but I'm pretty sure there were at least 10 people on the LVO wait list that got in. So that means we would have been down to 86 out of 128, 40 people that backed out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and I wonder if that number would have
It's the
been smaller
logistics.
if Omicron wasn't like wiping through at that time. I don't know.
Probably,
Yeah,
but I still don't think we're ever going to hit cap
no,
ever.
but I'm really excited about. I mean, and let's be realistic. It's probably going to be more like 45 if I had to guess when it's all said and done. But 50 confirmed. I mean, that's not bad. And down
Yeah,
to
that's
45, I'll take it.
better than all of the frontline game tournaments last year.
Yep.
Like not counting LVO. LVO doesn't count. It's huge. All the other those
SoCal
front
was around
lines,
50, wasn't it?
I thought they were all 30s or 40s.
Definitely not 30s. I'm gonna look because this is gonna
Yeah.
bother me.
Well, I'll fill in some space
Nola
here.
and Pax were both like in the 20s.
Yeah, that's about right for those events, though.
Right. Yeah.
45 at SoCal.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we have 46, we'll beat out.
Yeah, it'd be comparable.
But yeah, I mean, so I mean, and I know for a lot of you, you don't care about this. I'm excited. It's very hard to mobilize people to upstate New York, especially where we live. So, like, we know that, and we did it in the middle of the summer, right? Like when it's beautiful up here. So, I'm really excited about this. I'm excited for the numbers. It's really great. We've got a great corridor up here of players, between the three major cities up here, which is four: Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Albany. There's a ton of great players up here, so I'm really excited about that, and a bunch of people coming in from all over the place too, so that's going to be cool as well.
Got Luke Cook up there that's been hoarding his ELO points, not coming out to any tournaments.
I mean,
see if we can knock him down a little bit.
He's a has-been. Like, I'm so tired of this.
Still. He's a strong second.
You win one World's Championship, 5 years ago, and we're still talking about you? Like, come on.
Whatever. Hey, I agree, but yeah. I can't fake the numbers here. I mean, they are what they are.
For anybody new, we all know Luke, and we were just teasing him. So
Luke Cook is very good at Star Wars Legion.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been is Atlantic? I mean, you'd know Mystery Elo Master. Was Atlantic City the last event that he played at?
I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been basically a year, almost a year.
Yeah, that top three is very spread compared to everywhere else. We got Kyle sitting up at 1590 and then 60 points before Luke Cook and then another 50 points before Gus. So the top three is spread by 100 points. Yeah.
That's a pretty big spread.
Yeah. That's your fault.
Yeah, but because you went on a tear this year. You were like, oh, hey, I got a new baby coming. I'm gonna hit every tournament before that happens.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. And Nova Open's not even in there. I don't think it's it.
Nova's in there. Oh, no. I was thinking Nova. No.
Yeah. Nova. Yeah. I'm gonna make sure they use TTO this year.
Hey, I tried as that one was happening, even like I couldn't.
I know. It was
no one cared about Bushwhacks back then.
I did.
Well, they better now.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway. What are you guys bringing to Canto?
Oh yeah, we had some topics here.
You want to go first? Or you want me
to
go first?
I could go first. I've got it pulled up. I am bringing Republic. First time I've brought them to a major tournament, and I'm very taken by Yoda. He's so fun, so good. So I decided to go Yoda and 3 Wookiees and Chewie. That is, Yoda's all kitted out: push, reflexes, burst of speed, and vigilance. Chewie probably doesn't have any upgrades on him. I don't think he really needs them. And then 2 melee Wookiees with bowcaster and all the upgrades, and then 1 shooty Wookiee with bowcaster and undecided upgrade. And then just 3. Overwatch, yeah, maybe. There's so much range 4 out there.
There is so a lot. Much. But you can share Yoda's standby on the 3-pip turn. So
yeah,
that's basically you can create at least 2 turns where you have like an unstrippable standby for them to use.
Yeah. Potentially. Yeah, because their range 3 dice pool is stupid. Sharpshooter 1
It's good.
with 7 whites and a red, Pierce 1. I guess.
It is a little bit of a slot machine.
Yeah,
I run
I
them
guess.
with like Anakin and Padme. So that's situations where they even have usually extra aims lying around that they can spend from
Mhm.
like Exemplar. And it is, I mean, sometimes you'll get like 2 to 3 hits and sometimes you'll get like 6 hits.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a little too swingy for like a 100-point unit.
Yeah, it's 109 points right now.
Yeah.
This is true. This is true.
If you have scopes and like shareable aims that they can use, then it helps considerably. So then
I
you're
probably
rerolling 3
don't
white
have-
dice per aim. But
Yeah, probably don't have points for scopes.
yeah, at that point, they're getting pretty pricey.
Hey, I do have points for scopes. Puts me right at 800.
There you go.
Yeah.
800's the place to be, son.
Yeah, I don't need a bid.
Only
People are gonna give me
yeah.
red player anyways. Like
yeah, nobody takes
perfect.
bids anymore.
I get red
think-
player, awesome. If I get
I
blue,
think that's a
awesome.
little bit of a mistake,
Yeah.
personally.
You think
um,
people should be bidding for red?
I think people should be bidding to be able to choose, and making. So historically, bidding has been like, this is going to be a long tangent, and I apologize, but you
That's all
guys
right.
brought it up.
All right.
Historically, bidding has been a way to basically mitigate risk, right? And I think now there's 2 components to list building, right? There's the bid, and then there's the unit selection. And I think now the primary way you mitigate risk is through unit selection. So you want to make a list that can punt your battle deck if you need to. I think that's very important. But you also, like, if you roll up to a table that's like totally skewed towards one side, which happens even at events, you know, that have like, if you got a 128 person event or a 64 person event, that's 32 to 64 tables. Like, even if the TOs are great, there's going to be a handful of tables that are like, you know, it's going to be a problem if you can't pick table side. And if you roll up to one of those tables and you lose the bid to someone else and they pick red player, you could be in real trouble, right? So I don't think you're like always picking red. You know, if the table is balanced, you might still want blue, but if you lose the bid, you can't choose. So
Right.
I think you mitigate the risk in your unit choices, and that's basically you make a list that is not objective dependent and not doesn't care about its battle deck, and then you still bid like 2 points.
Which I feel like I have that. Maybe. I don't know. I'm also not, I mean, I'm also going in to have fun. LVO was exhausting. Adepticon's coming up and it's going to be exhausting. Yeah, I want to win, but I mean, I'm not going to run the sweatiest list I can think of. Yeah, I don't know. I want to see what this can do. And I think it could do a lot.
That strikes me as what I'd like to call a W key list, which you know is the
W.
forward key on the keyboard, right? In most games, you
Yes.
hit the W key,
Yes.
and that's the mode that
Yes.
list operates on.
Yes. Not quite as W key as 2 airspeeders and 3 Wookiees, but
Look, man.
but yes, a little lot bit of that. So what about you, Jay?
Well, we'll get back. I was going to ask you a question, but I think I can transition it later. But like, yeah. So for me, I'm going to be honest with everyone. I had 3 lists that I wanted to play at this tournament, like built lists that I was like, I'm playing one of these 3. And to be very honest with everyone, only one of them was an Empire list. So the one Empire list was the one I've been playing for a while, which is the double ATST, double dewback, triple sabs, with some naked stormtroopers, right? I played that list at a tournament locally, did really well with it. I've been playing it for a while, been doing relatively well with it, and I really enjoyed it. But a lot of this ion stuff started getting me thinking. I ran into a couple Bistan ions, and I was like, oh, this is miserable for these ATSTs. And then I saw the spiders coming with ion. You know what I mean? We saw a lot of that, and I was just like, okay, maybe double heavies isn't the way to go. And I also, we're going to talk about this later, but I also wanted to try my hand at other stuff. And so I'm not going with the double heavy list. So spoiler alert, I'm not playing Empire, not playing double heavy, but I want to tell you the other list, the other two lists, and I want to see if you guys can guess which. So the other list was Kalani with B1s, with the E60R Trooper, with and then 4 B1s with the E5S Troopers, then another B1 with an E60R Trooper and HQ uplink, 2 spider droids with attack protocols, the ion and link targeting array, and then an AAT with the OOM series pilot and high energy and link targeting array. That was
Fits?
yeah.
What the?
It's 10 activations.
6 B1s, 2 spiders, Kalani, and an AAT.
Yeah,
No, that's bad. Nobody should ever play that.
it's $7.99.
What all was on the AAT? Did you have the high velocity?
Yeah,
shell?
yeah. OOM series droid, high energy shells, and link targeting array. Now, that's all actually at 787. You can add one of the PK droids to one of the B1s and get it to 7.99.
Strip those ion tokens. From
And then
your
you can have
opposing spider
perfect
droids.
activation
Yeah.
control the entire game.
Yeah, no, that's not good. Don't play that. And listeners, don't play that either. It's terrible.
So anyway, that was the one. That's one list that I was looking at, and then the second one is an actual Rebels list that I'm dubbing the A team. It has Leia, no upgrades. OP Luke with burst of speed, force push, force reflexes, C's. Sabine with C's, recon and environmental gear. 2 rebel vets with the 93 upgrades. 2 of the medium blasters, and then 3 sniper strike teams. So that's 10 activations as well. So anyway,
Okay.
so those were the 3 lists I was playing through, and drum roll please, John. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm going with the Rebels.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, I'm gonna play Rebels. So I got Luke, Leia, and Sabine rocking. I've played a couple games with it. They both went really well for me. And so yeah, so that's what I'm playing. So shocker to everybody. No Jay with no heavies, no Empire, playing Rebels.
Interesting.
Do you have to hand in some kind of like membership card or something? I feel
Oh,
like
I think you do.
the hate is going to flow through our Empire listeners. I am going to get torn apart. But I think it's going to lead into our next topic. But it really came down to, can I play the double heavies? Yes. Can I play Empire? Yes. I don't think that's a question, right? I think I've played them enough. I think everyone's seen me play them enough that everyone's aware that I can play them and I can do well with them. And so the question I continually ask myself is, well, am I actually good at Legion, or have I just cut myself a niche that I'm really good at, and that's what I'm good at? Do you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of questioning myself, and so I wanted to kind of challenge myself with something different and just bring something else.
I
I
mean,
don't know that those are mutually exclusive either.
I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying it's more of a questioning my own
Yeah.
abilities at playing Legion, and what am I truly capable of outside of, because I think a lot of times, and any other heavy player, and Kyle, you double airspeeder, I think the surprise factor of a double heavy list, not everyone's prepared for it. When you sit across the table with them. So, and that can be part of the game, and that's okay. But, a lot of my questioning comes from, is that why I'm winning? Is it just because of the surprise factor? Like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a Legion player, as a podcaster who talks about this game? Am I pushing myself far enough? And so my answer to that was, well, play something you wouldn't usually play and go find out.
Okay.
I think
Are
that's great.
you worried at all about attrition on those rebel heavies? You have 4 rebel heavies that do not want to get shot at.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's going to be table dependent, right? And I think you're going to have
Can be.
yeah. So being able to be patient, right? And I think
Yeah.
Kyle and I talk about this all the time, and things I learned from Kyle. And I am not a patient person in any aspect of my life.
Yeah, I'm
And
not either.
right. And Kyle knows this. We've played enough times that he's seen me get real aggressive real quick, or watched me play, And so I think this list can lean in that direction, but it's like, it's instead of being like a hammer, like a double ATS list is, that you could just start hammering everything that moves on the table. It's, with Luke and Sabine, it's more of a scalpel. And so you're kind of waiting for your moment, and then you're like, then you have this big burst of action, right? And so yeah, I just need to be patient. And it's something I think I need to learn if I want to become better at Legion. And so the
Okay.
only way I learn, and this is just me personally, the only way I learn anything is to just trial by fire. So I need to just put myself in that situation, in a not a buddies playing situation, but like a go to a tournament and slap
Forced
this
to play
down,
it for
yeah,
6 games
and see what happens.
in rapid succession.
Yep.
Yeah, I hear that.
So
Okay.
and I'm sure a ton of people who are going to Canto are going to be extremely disappointed because they knew I was going, and they loaded up their list with Ion or whatever bullshit to try to
Gotcha.
get my heavies, and it's not going to happen. Guess who doesn't care about Ion? Luke. Luke doesn't care about Ion at all.
There's really not much that Luke cares about.
No. Well, and I would say, in my head, and maybe I'm wrong, and I don't mind giving out my thoughts on this. Sabine and Luke, I mean, I'm almost treating this like I would treat my heavies list, right? It's this principally the same. Like, I want them to have the orders most of the time in order to either go last or go first, or whatever I need to do with them in order to make it work. So I think the principles of it are the same. It's just the tactics of, like, I can't just sit Luke and Sabine in the middle of the table like I would 2 ATSTs, right? And just shoot at anything that moves. But they still need to have orders, and I still need to make decisions with them when it's right to make those decisions with them. And so in principle, in my eyes anyways, it seems similar in that respect, but I just have to be more patient and careful than I do with my other list.
You said you've got C's on both of them. C's the initiative.
Yeah.
When do you use C's with this list? Do you use it to get extra Leia buffs from her command cards? Or do you use it like on their respective 1 pips so
Yeah.
that you have the control?
So I really like it on if I were to be playing explosions.
Potentially,
Yeah,
theoretically,
right. One
out of the
12 Sabine's 1
how many
pip,
command cards?
and
Jeez.
one of
21.
Luke's, and one of Luke's 1 pips. I really think C's
15.
is best
18.
to use it on there, because think about it. You could have two turns where you have a solid chance of going first. And if you're not first, you still have orders on your 2 most important pieces. So as long as you haven't hung out both of them in a position where they can eat them alive with some sort of a 1 pip. Yeah, I think that's when you would use it, because now you're both key players now all have orders, and you have a 1 pip, so you have a lot of decisions. But I think this list, though, you got to be flexible, right? That's the other thing. This, with the ATST list, I could pretty much guarantee in every game I'd be playing the same cards in the same order. just based on how I ran my list, right? Like, okay, I'm going to play 3 pip turn 1. I'm going to play, probably a 2, one of the 2 pips, whether it's pinned down or assault and turn 2. And then that's how every game went. Whereas this game, I think, is flexible dependent on board state, depending on objectives, And so even though I think ideal state is 1 pip sees with the other character, I think that it just all depends on what I'm given. And what
If you
list
brought coordinate bombardment, you've got potential to catch some snipers that may have forgotten about peeking.
if people even bring snipers anymore, man,
I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't. They're
because
good.
there's so many other cool things.
There's a lot of good options. Like, yes, they're still good, but so are Wookiees. So
Yeah.
are Pathfinders.
Yeah.
So are Royal Guard.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a prediction, and we can check back in a week or 2 to see if this
boy.
was true. I bet you there's only 2 lists at this entire tournament that'll have snipers in them. Only 2.
What, like any snipers?
Yep.
Or I will take the over on that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll make a gentleman's bet. Come up
I'm
with
thinking like 6 or 7 lists
2.
Oh, I think it's a lot higher than that.
out
Yeah.
of.
I mean, you're gonna have at least 1 sniper in a lot of those. Like,
All right. So pick your numbers. I'm gonna say 2. Kyle, what's yours? What's your number?
lists
meant
that have at
lists.
least 1 sniper,
Yeah.
and we're talking about all 4 types of snipers, right? So
Yeah.
commandos, scouts, BX droids, and
Yeah.
arcs.
Are we talking Iden and Cassian and Echo?
No. Just the
strike teams.
special forces.
I think
Okay.
Echo counts if he's in a strike team.
Okay.
Echo in a strike, sure.
Okay, fine.
Okay. I'm gonna say 17.
All right. John.
You go over or under 17. Oof. That is a nice middle number.
That's why I picked it.
Yeah. Out of 45, 16.
Friggin' numbers, guys. You
Yeah,
said
16.
16. I'm saying 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that too.
Winner gets to do the intro for the next Scoundrels we're all
Okay.
on. How's that?
All right.
Gets to. It has to.
Has to. Well,
Other intro.
it's
kinda
however
awards
you
that.
see it, John, I guess. I don't know. I didn't know what else to bet. There isn't much else that.
No.
I
okay.
really think it's going to be a low number. I think it's going to be much closer to my number than it's going to be to either of your numbers.
I mean, I think
right.
17 would be a low number. But
I don't. Just my guess.
I mean, if you're talking about like lists with 3 snipers in them, then yeah,
No,
it's going to be a handful. But
not 3.
all right.
Any snipers.
Well,
Right.
I like your list, Jay. It's much more objective focused than
Yeah.
your ATST list. The ATST list is like objectives. What are those? I'm gonna just murder you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's right. And that's another thing, and I guess we're kind of transitioned into the second topic anyways, right? But it's huge, not just in the unit types, but it's what its purpose is in life. They're 2 different completely things. And I think, I have to push myself. I have to see at some point, and I can't keep relying on things that come easy to me, which is the heavies, right? And I need to like expand my mind.
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's a good segue.
That is a good segue.
It's
So
almost as if we've been doing this for 4 years.
it hasn't been 4 years, has it?
It's coming up.
Oh man, 3.5, I guess.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah. So like, suppose you feel like I don't even know if rut is the right word. Because maybe you could be doing okay, but you just feel like you've kind of plateaued. How do you improve at Legion?
I think the best way is kind of what Jay's alluding at, but it can be one of the more difficult ways to do it. Trying different lists, especially different factions, like lists that you struggle playing against. When you are the the driver in those lists, and you have to make the decisions that they're making, it puts you it and you have to do those mental gymnastics that they're doing. It puts you in a much better position to see the weaknesses of that list and to know what the tendencies of that list are, so that you can then counter it on your preferred list of whatever type. Or maybe you'll see things about that list that you like that you can somehow bring into your preferred list. But that takes, having multiple factions, having a lot of minis, or playing on TTS, or borrowing minis. You could always borrow.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, and I can only talk from personal experience, and with the couple times that I've played this Rebels list, a lot of my learned items from playing my double heavy list, it didn't really change as the lessons. It just changed how I deal with those lessons now, right? And stuff I've learned from Kyle, and the old dodge standby move, right? For a turn or whatever, and taking that patience and saying, you know what, like one of the games, they hung a unit out to dry, and I was like, okay, I could definitely get that unit with Sabine or Luke, right? And I could do something right now. But really having the patience to go, that's a bad idea. Because, even though I take that unit out, like that unit's not equal to Luke. So I can't, that's not an even trade. So I can't make that trade. I need to be patient and wait for another mistake or another opportunity to attack. So just taking lessons and learning from them and trying to be, no matter what list, because I think a lot of them are just pretty generic lessons you learn across Legion, no matter what you're playing.
Yeah, the fundamentals are similar, regardless of what faction you're playing. I do think switching factions, just even for a few games, is definitely one of the easiest things you can do to kind of give yourself another perspective. And like John said, if you don't collect multiple factions, you can always borrow one or swap.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have sort of split like a core set or something with someone else, a friend, someone in your family or whatever, and you may just be consistently playing the same factions. And if you feel like you're kind of stuck, maybe just ask that person if they want to switch for a few games and just see things from a different perspective, and that could be valuable for both of you. So, you don't have to collect multiple factions to try different factions. Odds are you have a friend that might want to do the same thing, and you just swap armies for a game or two.
Yeah, I would say the other thing too is something I like to do if I'm playing a game with, I don't know, Evan or someone else friendly here, at my house or their house or whatever, or at the local store, just a one-off game. I'll tend to put myself in positions I know are not good. Like I'd say, okay, I know this is a dumb, like, let's say we're in turn 0 picking cards, and I'm like, okay, well, I probably shouldn't do recover the supplies with double ATS double do back, while he has Luke or something, you know what I mean? But let me put myself in that situation, because I need to learn if this is ever forced on me, or if I don't have it's hard to force that on people now, but if I don't have an option, I think putting yourself in positions that are bad, just to see how you're going to work it out and how you're going to fight your way out of it, or if you even can fight your way out of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Kind of intentionally putting yourself in certain positions.
Like a handicap.
Yeah.
One thing that I like to do when I'm in my head, I call it stress testing, but when I'm basically sort of zeroed in on a list that I want to try for a big tournament and I want to kind of see what its weaknesses are, I'll try and think up, what other lists out there could be the biggest threats to it. And then I'll see if one of my friends wants to play that list, just so I can kind of test it against the thing that I think it's weak against. And that's list testing. But I think that's, situation, that sort of mindset generally is helpful. And I don't know if I would even view it as handicapping yourself, just sort of as putting yourself in situations where you might not be comfortable.
Yeah.
And that can be as simple as like maybe you don't have a lot of reps on a specific objective and you want to get more comfortable with it. You know, I've seen this a lot with the vital assets objectives where people are like, oh, I've never, you know, this is the first time I've played bombing runner. This is the first time I've played payload. If you want to be serious about a tournament, don't make that tournament the first time that you've played payload. You know, don't always go through the normal turn 0 veto process. Maybe just intentionally set up the battle cards in a way that creates a situation that you're not familiar with.
Tournament prep, I almost never go through the turn 0 process. Like, especially if I know my list, like if I'm not, yeah, unless you're specifically trying to get better at the turn 0 process, like
Which is very important.
it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of merit to that. But you could do that in other ways, right? You could just drill that turn 0
Yeah.
over and over. But if I'm playing with another friend prepping for a tournament, like we'll choose the battle cards based on what whoever either of us wants more practice on. Yeah, I think that's very useful.
Asking your opponent for feedback after a game, super important. You know, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. I think it's always a great idea to sort of talk through how the game went with your opponent afterward in a way that's respectful and objective. You know, and hopefully you can, like you can always, everybody makes mistakes every single game, win or lose. Like you always make mistakes in a game. And someone's probably going to make less than others, but like there's no such thing as a mistake-free game. So it's always helpful to talk through what those were with your opponent. Chances are they saw something that you didn't, and vice versa. So don't be salty after a game if you lose. Just be like, hey, you know, what do you think? How do you think this could have gone differently? You know, what decisions
Look for
do you
that
think-
turning point if you
Yeah.
lost, or even if you won. Try and identify there's normally 2 or 3 or like a small handful of points that like made or broke a game. Try and identify those, and
Yep.
if they were in your opponent's favor, try and not let that happen next time. You know.
Yeah, and I think too, I see this a lot. Like some people get really down on themselves. Like a lot of games where let's say I've won and the person will be like, oh yeah, man, I really sucked at that game or whatever they say, right? And then I'm like looking back at the game in my head going, they didn't really suck, like the dice just sucked. Like, and that sometimes just happens. And I think recognizing too, because I think a lot of people can be down on themselves and negative, but recognizing that a portion of what we do is luck based and it's on dice rolls, right? Like as much as, I mean, Kyle is king at like mitigating that down to the lowest possible that he can, but there's still a number of moments in games where it's all down to a dice roll and how that dice roll goes. And so I think recognizing that too and saying, hey, we both played a great game, and you know, I wouldn't say this during the game, but afterwards just being like the dice just went in their favor during the, you know, during that interaction, and that just happens.
I think it's dangerous to bring that up, because you can kind of diminish whoever the win of whoever won, right? If you blame it on the dice, which hurts to win and then have your opponent say,
Yeah,
like start talking about the dice.
I guess
Like,
I didn't mean
that's a real
blame it
feels
on the
bad.
I didn't mean like say it
Even
out loud.
bringing it up though,
I meant
like,
just thinking about
planting
it.
that seed.
Well, I guess because okay, and here's more of where let's use an example.
Like
Let's
it
say,
can be the dice. Like I 100% agree, but
and I don't mean like
it's very hard to identify.
I don't mean like defense dice. I guess maybe more what I was thinking
Either.
about was like, hey, I come in with I don't know, pick a big unit like an ATST, right? I came in with an ATST. You left a unit out in the open. right? And I was like, oh, this, or even a Jedi, like some sort of Jedi, I'm my force user. Oh, this is an easy kill. I'm going to take this and I'm going to move on, and this is it, right? And then you just whiff hard, like you just get all blanks or something, and then that just starts turning the tide, right? And then you see a couple of those, and it just happens sometimes. And I think you need to just be accepting of that. Not like blaming the dice for your loss, but just accepting the fact that there are a few things that are just out of your control and the other person's control. So no matter how perfect you think you are, there's going to be some stuff that's just
Yeah, for sure.
out of your control. I meant that more of a like an internal conversation than a like telling your opponent.
I've had that in tournaments.
Yeah.
Where like it was a close game. I feel like
awkward.
dice swing, sure, both ways.
Yeah.
But your opponent, like, I don't know when I was listening to this, but I was listening to it recently, where you always hear the negative. The negative always sticks with you way more than the positive.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're gonna see your 8 blanks and not the 3 times that you had 3 hits in a row, you know.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was just assumed. That okay. So sorry, John. You're right. It's not assumed. So that's my fault. I meant more of, yeah, don't blame your, like, yes, there's absolutely players out there who are like, well, my dice suck, that's why you won.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm saying. But if you see a moment where, let's say, Vader goes out to slaughter a unit, it's the right move, and he just blanks out because there are blank sides on those dice, that's not your fault. That's just a random occurrence, right? Like, and it just happens, and you need to just accept that and not beat yourself up over something like that. That's more of what I meant.
The amount of Son of Skywalkers that I've had like less than 4 hits.
Yeah.
Oh, it hurts so bad.
Well, and I like where you're going with that, Jay. I think sort of the upshot of that is you have to try and kind of remove the result from your assessment and just kind of focus on your decisions. I do think it's important to almost like look for ways where you can remove the dice from your decision-making process.
Mm-hmm.
Like you referenced a time where Vader goes to kill a unit and he whiffs and that unit survives. And maybe as a result of that unit surviving, they were able to score an objective or something at the end of the game that caused you to lose, right? But I think also if you kind of focus on that whiff and be like, well, this was still a good decision, I just whiffed. Maybe you're also not seeing that, well, you could have just completely removed the dice from the equation by force pushing them and then choking the unit leader or something.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't even had to roll dice and they wouldn't have been able to score, you know? So I think it's important to, because you can also have like good results that kind of cover up a bad decision. You know, it goes both ways, right?
Right.
And I think it's really important to,
I've definitely had those too. Where we
shouldn't have done that.
You hang one of your force users out, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have left them out there, and then they just miss, and you're like, well, I guess that worked out all right. You know?
I'm pretty sure my game against Timbo at LVO, I made some mistakes with Luke that I did not get punished for as much as like the dice should have punished me. But,
yeah, so it's kind of important to remove them entirely and just be like, you know, was this decision a sound decision? Regardless of what the dice outcome was. Yeah. So, and how could I have made this decision or improved my chances to win without rolling any dice? I find that's especially true with force users who have a lot of ways to kind of change the game state without making attacks. You know, with like force push and command cards and stuff like that. But it's true of normal units too. Like, especially when you're talking about scoring objectives.
Yeah.
Sometimes tying a unit up in melee so they can't get to where they need to go is better than shooting them. You know? Like maybe you'd kill them, probably kill them if you shot them. But if you tied them up in melee, then they would definitely not get to where they need to go. So you should do that thing instead.
Yeah.
You know?
Go for the 100%.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I hear what you guys are saying, but I don't think that's always an option for everyone.
It's not, but
right.
But it is something to look for.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. And maybe that's the bigger takeaway, right? Is maybe it's all the big plays, right? And even a lot of the small ones, like look at it in retrospect and go, okay, what could I have made a better move there that, after the game's over, replay it in your head, talk it through with your opponent and be like, oh, okay, could I have made it, where was the domino that led me to that, to that final decision? But
Yeah.
I really, I think one of the things too, and I don't know, you guys play more like Wookiee type aggressive, more melee aggressive units, right, than I have. And I just wonder, I find with this game, it's all about patience. Like even the aggressive lists that I've played seem to be about waiting for your moment and your opportunity. Like that seems to be a big part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the last tournament that I played was SoCal, and I played probably one of the most aggressive lists you can think of, right? The double air speeder, triple Wookiee list.
Yeah.
But at its heart, it's a little bit of a misnomer to call that an aggressive list. It's more like a threat saturation list. And when you should be saturating your opponent with that threat is not always as quickly as possible, right? It's, when the moment is correct to do that, and that may not be on turn one, it may not even be on turn two. So like I've had games where my airspeeder just kind of fly in circles for a turn or two, or do like a sideways approach to my opponent's army, because you need them to get there at the same time as the Wookiees are getting there. Particularly if your opponent has counters to those airspeeders, right?
Ooh.
And that's just one example, but I like what you're getting at there, where like just because you have a quote unquote W key list doesn't mean that you have to hit the W key on turn one.
Yeah.
Maybe do some A and D in there,
Well, that go way
Keep
back.
holding W. Keep holding it.
Right.
But, yeah, maybe a little
work
A,
some
maybe a
and D
little
in there.
D.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a little crouch.
Right. Let off the shift key.
Some
Don't run.
control.
No sprinting. Just
No,
walk.
you hold shift.
Yeah.
Hold shift.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, this goes back to a topic. I don't know. Listen, 2, 3, 1 year ago, 2 days ago, I have no idea at this, but we used to talk a lot about standing orders in your command hand, and like the prevailing kind of skill was playing standing orders turn one and sometimes turn two, like holding your other cards until it was almost necessary to play them, right? And so it kind of falls into that same thing. And when you're looking at turn one and looking at what your opponent's attempting to do, sometimes it's just better to wait for the moment versus trying to create the moment, because not all lists are capable of creating the moment.
Yep. Yeah, the number one mistake I see most players make is being impatient and being too aggressive.
I don't think I've ever seen, and Kyle, maybe you have, and maybe I haven't, I just don't remember. I don't know that I've seen anyone get punished really bad because they were being too like standoffish.
I
have you? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen often though.
It's not common, but I've definitely seen it. Yeah. I mean, I've made that mistake myself.
Yeah. Because I think you'll see if you've been playing for a while, you'll see the moment, right? And you'll know when you need to do whatever it is you're waiting to do. I think that makes sense. I just played it back in my head and it sounded weird, but whatever.
I think I've struggled with that. Like I've played, I don't know, definitely more than 20 games with Wookiees, with triple Wookiees. And I've struggled with that a lot. Where I'll kind of get into like a paralysis, like there is no good time to cross this field. And if I hesitate, I just die more. And so then I just run in and then I still die. So, and here I am taking 3 Wookiees again. So it's a little bit of the patience. I think finding a spot where I can be patient is probably the biggest part of it. I like to blame that on terrain, but you know,
Well, terrain's an important factor there.
it is. It is.
I mean, what you're describing, like when I say I've made that mistake where I've been too patient, my last invader run, I was playing triple Wookiees, Gar Wookiees with Rex, and I was playing against Florf, who was running a clone gun line, a pre-nerf clone gun line, and the map was one of those maps where there's just like not that many line of sight blockers, and I was trying to be cagey and use what there was, and you know he was just like lasering a unit every turn.
Jeez.
And before I knew it, I was like, I got nothing left to work with here, you know, and I should have, like, that was a situation where I just needed to hit W from the word go and recognize that he was going to kill a Wookiee or two on the way in. But if I survived with enough stuff, then I was going to be fine. But I didn't realize that until it was too late. So it's definitely not always correct to be patient.
Right.
You know, I'd guess a better way to describe it is like see when your critical moment is going to be, and sometimes that critical moment is immediately.
Oh yeah. Sometimes it is.
It's very terrain dependent. Usually you're talking about like an open table where you have a melee list against a
This is probably
a
not a
longer
list
range
that I'm
list.
going to bring to Adepticon.
Yeah.
Not saying anything about the terrain, just saying like higher stakes, you know.
Well, it is important though. This is a little bit of a tangent. But it's important to like have a plan for tables that are too open.
Yeah. And Wookiees don't.
Because you know, at an event with 64 tables or 32 tables, like it's gonna happen. You know, we've got great TOs. They put great tables together. There's lots of great terrain out there. But when your sample size is that big, the chance that you roll up to a table, you know, where you, and if you've got a short range list where you're like, this makes me a little uncomfortable. In a 6 or 9 or 10 game tournament, that's going to happen at least once.
Well, it takes a while to not only just throw the terrain on the table, but then to think about the terrain on the table. Like I've built a fair amount of tables helping out at tournaments, and I'm not comfortable till I've spent at least like 10 minutes on a table.
Yeah.
And if you've got 30 tables, even if you're only doing a third of them, that's 100 minutes on you staring at tables. Like,
Yeah,
you're gonna miss some.
100%.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's going back to the top of the conversation, like with this list that I'm bringing to Canto. Before with a double dewback, double ATST list, terrain wasn't really a concern of mine. You know what I mean? And now it is. And so I've got to be really thoughtful about that. But that's learning, right? And seeing the table differently, because the table looks much different from the top of an ATST than it does from, you know, from Luke. So
2 more things I want to hit on the topic of like improving. The first one is just to play people that are outside your normal play group, whether that's like traveling somewhere else to a tournament that's outside your normal area. Maybe you've just been playing at your house and you've never been to your local store to play. You know, you could go on TTS. That's certainly the biggest pond that you can jump in, right? It's something like Invader League or base team league. Get out of whatever pond you're in and find a bigger pond and jump in that one. Because exposing yourself to different players gives you different perspectives, exposes you to different lists that, you know, maybe whatever your local meta is hasn't thought of yet, exposes you to different skill levels, you know. So I think that's besides like trying a different faction, that's the next thing that you can do that's super easy, is to just find a different pond, find a bigger pond, hopefully, and jump in that one. I think that's huge for just improving generally. The bigger the pond you can find, the better.
Yeah, and I would say too, like understanding yourself and like what you're best, like how are you best at learning, right? Is it in person? Is it actually playing the game or on TTS? Is it listening and like thinking about it? Because I think there's opportunities for everybody. I think you definitely got to play the game at some point, but some people just do better in different mediums, right? We all learn differently, and some people can just theory craft and mentally think about it and can actually apply it. Some people need to actually do it, and so know yourself and practice what's best for you, the best way that it is, for you to learn.
Yep. I do a lot of theory crafting when I'm just like rocking my kid to sleep or something. It's like I need to stay awake or I'm going to drop this child. I'm going to start thinking about Legion lists. Just random moments driving in the car, driving to work.
I've missed freeway exits driving in the car thinking about a list.
Yep.
Like, oh crap.
100%. So yeah, fill that thought space. You got to fill it with something. So, the last thing I would say is this is kind of a narrow one because the opportunities for this initially are probably kind of limited. But I would say if you ever have an opportunity to be streamed in any kind of tournament, whether it's a real life tournament, whether it's a TTS tournament, whatever, take it. That's a huge opportunity to improve yourself. You're not only going to get the perspective of your opponent, which is usually the only person's perspective that you get. You're going to get the perspective of the people casting it and everybody watching, which could be like 100 extra people.
Yeah, and I get that can be uncomfortable, right?
Right.
It's not at first you're like, oh, I don't want everybody to see my mistakes, right? I think that's what we all think about first when somebody's like, oh, I want to put you live on stream. But I think most 99.9% of people, we've done a lot of streams. Most people will comment on a mistake you've made, but they're not like shitty about it. They're very
well, they might be.
Well, and they're not always even right. I've had
not,
some of my games
yeah.
streamed and then I've listened to, I'm like, they called that a mistake, but that
afterwards,
like, won me the
don't
game.
listen to it in the middle of the stream. Go
Right.
back and listen to it.
I mean, yeah.
But no, and I guess I meant like, yeah, they'll jump on you for the mistake, but I don't feel like they don't get like, it moves fast. So you'll hear about it for like 20 seconds, but then once something else happens, everybody moves past it.
The casters are usually pretty civil about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes the audience can get a little
as all online.
Wild card.
Yeah.
But that, if like feedback is feedback. So
yeah,
it's all useful.
This is true.
Yeah.
Most of it's useful.
All of it.
you guys know what I mean.
I was gonna say we get some comments on some of our stuff that I'm like, that wasn't really useful. But
let me put it this way. It's possible for someone to make a good point that you could use to improve without a respectful tone. And certainly they should not be doing that, but that also doesn't mean that you shouldn't take the feedback. So,
but if it's something that's harder, what I find too is anyone who streams, if we see a good point in the chat or something, we'll say it out loud on stream. So if you're feeling like you want to watch the stream but you don't really want all the like comments, just turn that part off and just listen to the casters, because they'll pull out all the good points.
Yep. All right. Anything else on self-improvement?
Yeah, I mean, what's that thing? People only grow when they're outside their comfort zone, right? So that's when people do their most growth, is when they're outside their comfort zone. And so as much as you can, maybe not at a major tournament, but at your local store or something, bring a new list, bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and you're going to learn. You're not going to win most likely that local tournament, but you're gonna win. You're gonna win because you're gonna learn something, and then you can apply that to the list you're good at, and then next time be better.
And don't be afraid to just go to a tournament. Like you don't.
Yeah.
There's no experience level where you're like. I mean, you should have a few games in, and you should know the basic rules and stuff clearly. But
Right.
Don't be afraid to show up to a tournament because you're quote unquote too new. Like just
Yeah.
go. Everybody's
agree.
got to go to their first tournament sometime. Just do it.
And I find like as long as it's like a local, as long as you're not going to like a highly competitive tournament like Adepticon or something where there's some real stuff on the line. If you tell people, especially locally or at smaller tournaments, if you're like, hey, it's only my first or second time playing in a tournament, people are really cool about it. Be like, all right, well, just let me know what you don't know, and we'll go through it. I find the community to be, for the most part, super chill.
Yep. Agreed.
Especially in person.
Yeah. All right.
I would also add, sorry, I left a bit of a pause there before adding this.
I thought that was a wrap it up pause, John.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was for me.
yeah, I see that. Last thing, kind of might seem unrelated, but I'm a believer in it. Is keep your mind doing mental gymnastics, like even outside of Legion. Like find some kind of like you play chess on your phone with friends is great at helping you think strategically on a regular basis, or other strategy games like that kind of like break you away from watching TV in your spare time or something like that. Highly
Or
recommend.
in Kyle's case, how do you get 3 kids to bed at the same time?
Yeah,
there's your
sounds like some mental
Yeah,
gymnastics.
there's your
right there.
strategy.
If anyone figures that out, let me know. All ears. Yeah, and sometime we've done an episode on this in the past, but we'll have to do another episode on System 1 and System 2 thinking. Which is essentially like active versus passive thought. Because that's one way to also like kind of decrease your mental load during games. But that's like a whole nother episode. So.
Yeah, geez. Okay.
I like that.
If you're curious, go back and I'm sure you can search our episode history for like, I don't remember what we called it, but System 1 versus System 2 thinking. It's a good episode.
I'll have to find that.
Yep.
Yeah, John, go back and listen to our episodes. What are you doing?
Yeah, the TLDR is the more things you can like offload to your autopilot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The better.
I am curious what like the deep dive was.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, any final thoughts?
Now I'm done.
All right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Jay.
I'm John Bushfax Bushman.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.